Thank you for joining me on another episode of Fruitful Homemaker. We are going to be looking at how to make this potato flake sourdough bread recipe. And this has become a staple in our home. I bake it once a week, and when we have guests over, we bake extra so they can take a loaf home. And Miss Kaylin from our church will be going through how to make the starter, how to take care of it, how to do the dough, how to store the bread. And so I hope that you enjoy this practical video on homemaking. All right, so thank you for coming over to make sourdough. Will you show me how to do the starter?
Yes, well, thank you for having me. And so the starter, we just put in a plastic container or a glass container. You're really not supposed to use metal with any of the sourdough. I don't really know the whole science behind it, but the metal messes with the sourdough. Okay, so to make the starter, we're just going to use a cup of warm water. And if you want to put that in there, you can.
And you didn't, doesn't have to be like a certain temperature or anything, just warm
Just
water?
warm. I think our faucet at home gets like to 155. It's scalding, and I just put it in there. Okay, and then next you're going to do 3/4 of a cup of sugar. I actually need to get my recipe out and make sure that I haven't started starter in a while.
And this is my first time making starter. I have never attempted to make sourdough or anything, so
it's
I'm
really
to try this out.
It's really easy. Okay, and then we will do 3 tablespoons of the potato flakes or instant mashed potatoes.
Is it 3 tablespoons?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, do a lot of sourdoughs use the potato flakes, or is this?
I don't think so.
This particular sourdough.
I think a lot of people do just flour and water to get their starter going, or they do, flour and yeast and water to get it going. So the original recipe calls for a package of yeast, which is about 2 1/4 teaspoons, but I just put 3 in there because it's easier for me. So there's the yeast.
And 3
teaspoons. And I'm not super precise with measurements, which a lot of bakers are like, you have to follow the recipe exactly. Yeah. I don't.
Okay.
And we're done with making the starter. So we will put the lid on it. Do not stir it. It's going to take every fiber of your bean.
I need to stir that.
To not, and I have a really hard time not stirring it, but you don't stir it. So you just put the lid on it and you just put it in a warm spot in your kitchen, and about 9:30 tonight before you go to bed, just put it in the refrigerator.
And that's all you do.
And then in 3 days, you will do sugar, water, and the potato flakes. And then you will leave it out all day, and then put it up, and then 3 more days. And after you've fed it 3 times, then you can make bread.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And then do you use all of this for your loaves that you make, or you just keep on? Because I've heard of keeping on feeding your starter.
So a lot of people discard because they don't have a big enough container. My container that I have is the exact same one, except it's double. And I never discard any of mine.
Oh, okay.
But like for church, when we do the fellowship meal, I triple the batch. So I'll feed it 3 times in the same day. Just triple it. So I don't ever get rid of mine. But yeah, so this is done.
Okay.
So we'll just put this over here.
Okay. And then the potato flakes, you just get like the bag. Yeah. And that's perfect. And you just put in the container, and then you have it for, how long does this usually last you for? Well, I guess if you triple it, then it goes faster.
The first year that I made this, this one lasted me a really long time. And it may have been a little bit bigger than this.
Yeah.
But when you repurchase it, just make sure that you get original or like non-butter Nothing
not
with
flavored.
Yeah,
just
not
the
flavored
regular.
at all.
Okay.
And I don't even know like what brand this is. I just buy the cheapest brand and go from there. So, all right. Well, so now let's pretend that starter is 9 days old. And now we're gonna feed this one so we can make bread with it. Okay. So it's gonna be the same thing. We'll need a cup of warm water.
Okay.
I would use that.
This one. Okay. So how old is this one?
This one I made last September.
Oh, okay.
So you'll need to put the sugar in.
Okay. In 3/4.
3/4 cup.
One sugar. And then the water?
Oh yeah, you can put the water in.
Okay. Now do you stir this one or is it the same thing?
Same thing. And then 3 tablespoons of the potato flakes. So really this is done, but since I have moved this from container to container, we're gonna add just a little pinch of yeast to it to make sure that it does what it's supposed to. I've never done this except this week, and it's worked out fine this week.
Right.
So just, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
And this is like what?
Quarter? Yeah. And then we're gonna put the lid on this, and I have a little slit cut in here because what this does, so in the original recipe you only add yeast the first time, which is when we made the starter.
Yeah.
Because as you let it sit out, it catches wild yeast in the air, and that's what keeps it going.
Oh, okay.
But like I said, since I had moved it from container to container, just to make sure, just add a little bit. But that's not part of the recipe, but that's just what I do. Yeah. So now, since we have fed this, we will leave this out until the end of the day, and we'll either make bread with it tonight, or we'll just put it back in the refrigerator.
Okay, great.
Okay, so that one's done.
And where did this recipe come from?
So the lady's name is Betty. No one knows who Betty is. A lady named Pat Raines gave this recipe to my grandparents.
Oh.
And it was actually my grandpa's like pet project.
Oh, really?
Yes. So he badgered her until she finally gave him a cup of starter, and then he just kind of ran with it. So we've heard that the recipe is over 120 years old.
Wow.
But then me and my grandma were talking, and we were like, did they really have potato flakes or granules 120 years ago? Like, we don't know.
Right.
Or did they just use dehydrated potatoes?
Oh,
So yeah, it's out of an old church cookbook, and if you can see, like, there's lots of notes.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of.
Do you have this cookbook at home?
My grandma has it.
Oh, that's awesome.
So,
Wow.
So yeah. All right. Are you ready to make some dough?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we need another cup of warm water.
Okay. All right. 1 cup.
Yes, 1 cup of water.
Okay.
Okay, and then a 1/4 cup of sugar.
Okay.
Okay, and 2 teaspoons of salt. Now, I use coarse salt just because I like it better than just regular table salt. So, so if you use just regular table salt, I would probably back off of the 2 teaspoons. Maybe, like the original recipe says 1.5 teaspoons, but then you can see my grandpa, he crossed it out and put a teaspoon. But then my grandma added 2 teaspoons.
Oh, yeah.
So, And then you need a half a cup of vegetable oil.
Okay.
And we use Wesson, like that's
That's
what's written down here, and so that's what we do.
I didn't realize that there could be a difference in vegetable oil.
Oh yeah.
There is?
Yeah.
Okay.
They all taste different and smell different.
Oh.
Okay. And now you're gonna stir. Just stir it until it's mostly dissolved. And this is really fun to do with kids. I don't know if Jacob could do it, but Gracie, because Charlie helps me all the time with it. So, like, I let him paint the bowl at the end, and he likes to stir and stuff like that. Okay, so now we're gonna put in 6 cups of flour.
Okay.
Now this is a cup and a half, so it'd be 4 scoops of this.
Okay.
Again, I'm not precise with it. I just kind of just go with it because we can add more water and it'll be fine.
I was gonna say, yeah, I see a lot of bakers of bread do the kitchen scale instead of cups, just to get the precise.
And really that's what you're supposed to do. But
I like this method.
Yeah, it's worked for me so far. So okay. So now you will stir that, and it will become very difficult to stir, and that's okay.
Okay. And have you always had a love for cooking? You went to culinary school.
Yes, so Grammy always had me in the kitchen. Just, she let us make a mess. She let us experiment. You know, she taught school for 38 years, so she was just kind of like, do whatever you want. So I've always just kind of cooked with her, and like I said, this was my grandpa's pet project. And then after he passed away several years ago, me and Grammy picked it back up, and then when COVID hit, I was bored, so we made bread. Okay, so that's probably good.
Okay.
So now you're gonna add a cup of starter. Now, honestly, I usually do like a cup and a quarter, a cup and a half.
Okay.
So we'll just do a cup and a quarter.
Okay.
The last one, yeah.
And now, what is this jar?
Now this jar I fed last night, so it set out all night. So we're making bread this morning.
Okay.
And then this dough will sit out all night till about 9 o'clock tonight. And then you will punch it down and put it in the loaf pans. Okay. And then in the morning you bake it.
Oh, nice.
Okay. So yeah, we'll just do like a cup and a quarter. And it's okay if some of the chunky potato and sugar gets in there. It's completely fine. Yep. And then stir that. Okay, now at this point, to me, it looks a little dry. Okay. And it will look different every time you make it. So it's really something that you have to feel and just go off look. Okay. But do you see how like you can still see flour? Yeah. So what you'll need to do is get some more warm water, probably about half of a cup. Okay. Just in there. And we're actually gonna not use the spoon anymore. And I would just, that's fine. That's good. Okay. Yeah, and then just pour a little bit in there. Okay. Oh, come on. Keep going. Yeah. Okay, that's good. Okay. Now, what I do is I just take my hand like this, because we don't need this in any way. Okay. And we just fold it over like that. But it's definitely going to need some more water. So just go ahead. The rest of it? Yeah. Okay. So this is supposed to be sticky. I like it sticky. Okay. I think it produces a more moist bread. Okay. So do you want to try, or do you want?
So you're just kind of folding it over?
Yep. I just fold it over and make sure we get all the flour off the bottom. Okay. And the sides. Okay, that's good.
Okay.
And then we can wash our hands, and then we will oil the bowl, and then we're done with that.
Okay.
Okay, so now take the oil, and then I have these brushes. It doesn't matter which one you use. It's just, I don't like the real hair bristle brushes because I find that they shed. So I like silicone.
Yeah.
So now what I do with this,
Yeah.
again, not precise with it. Some people would tell you to get another bowl, get a paper towel. We don't have time for that, okay? So we're just gonna go for it. Just kind of go for it. And like I said, this is normally where Charlie helps. He likes to paint it and stuff. So just paint the sides.
Okay. And does this help it not to stick or?
I mean, sometimes it sticks, sometimes it doesn't. And it'll be different every time. And you just have to adjust. Is the only, once you make it several times, you'll understand what I'm talking about.
Right. Well, I'm gonna be calling you, sending you pictures. Like, what do I do with this?
And I have made a gluten-free, sugar-free, dairy-free version of this.
Really?
I've never tasted it, but my gluten-free friends told me it's okay. Okay, so now what I do, just habit, is I just kind of turn it over with the brush, like that. And you can cover it with a towel. Since I normally feed mine in the morning and make dough in the evening, what I do is I put it in my oven with the light on, and I don't cover it or anything. And I just leave it in there until after I've had my coffee in the morning, and then that's when I shape it.
Oh, okay.
Now, in the colder months, which is coming, I will boil a huge soup pot of water and like crazy boil, put it in the oven, and then put this in there. The humidity and the warmth will keep it, because it gets so cold at night. Yeah. We don't turn our heat on until it's like 20 degrees outside. So it's really cold in our house. So, all right.
You're going to put this in the oven?
Yes.
Okay.
So we'll just put it in the oven with the light. Oh yeah.
This one
I
has
need
to
to take
put this down.
Yeah.
Or take this out.
We'll just stick that in there. Okay. Will the light stay on? Yeah. And then you're done with that until about, we try to do about 12 hours. So till about 10 o'clock tonight.
That's what I've read and seen, that sourdough. It takes a long time.
Yeah.
It's like at least a 2-day process.
Yes.
So is this the dough?
Yes, so this is the dough that has risen overnight.
Okay.
I took a picture of it because I was afraid. No, it didn't. I was afraid it was going to deflate on the car right over here, but it didn't. So this is it all poofy and
it's supposed to be jiggly.
Yeah, and sometimes it may not, but sometimes if you listen, you can hear it.
The popping or the.
I don't think I hear it. So now we'll just punch it down.
Okay.
And
you just punch it.
Yeah. Yeah. And get all the air out.
Okay.
And then that same folding motion that you did with the dough earlier is what we'll do.
Okay. Should I be doing that now or still punching?
No, you're good. You can start folding it.
Okay.
And just kind of work it just for a second. It doesn't need much. Yeah.
Okay. Is that good?
Now this dough compared to the dough that we just made is super wet.
Yes.
Wow, last night, I don't know, it just got heavy with the water. So it is a little more sticky than normal.
Okay.
But it's not really going to make much of a difference. So now we're going to shape it. The recipe says it will make 3 loaves, but I have these loaf pans and it just makes 2. Yeah. So we will grease these.
You just fry them?
Yep. Just try not to, inhale it.
So you can really grease these.
Yes. because sometimes it can rise like over the pan, and so you don't really want it to stick to the top. Okay, so 2 loaves. So basically all we have to do is break this in half. You could weigh it if you wanted to,
but
again,
yeah.
So what I like to do is kind of get it all in my hand.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, this one's a little bit more wet than normal.
Yeah.
But then just kind of break it in half, just like that.
Wow, look at that.
And then I just kind of fold it over, like under itself, kind of roll it.
Yeah.
Until the top is nice and smooth. And then I just put it in there.
Look at that. Oh boy. Okay.
You can do it.
Okay.
It's fine.
So start kind of folding it. Okay.
And again, this one's more wet, so it is a little bit more difficult.
Okay. Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then just drop it in there. Yep.
There we go.
It's going to be perfect.
That's good.
Yeah. So now that we have done that, again, depending on how warm your kitchen is, usually I do it about 8:30, 9 o'clock, and like yesterday I made bread for care group and I baked it at like 11:30. But I was baking cookies and that kind of thing. So, and our kitchen is like this big, so it was ready to be baked. So once it kind of gets to the top, or maybe just a little under the top, just go ahead and bake it because it will rise in the oven. And it's 350 for 30 minutes. And about 10 or 15 minutes, I check it and rotate it. And then if I think it's too brown, then I will put a piece of aluminum foil over the top and then just bake it for the rest of the time. So, and then the best way for me to know when it's done, even though I've been making this for so long, I still check it. And this is a meat thermometer. But I just stick it kind of like in the corner right here. And whenever it hits 180 degrees, I know that it's good.
Oh,
so.
Wow. I've never...
And you don't really if you put it on the bottom, it's obviously going to be super hot. So what I do is I stick it all the way in until I hit the bottom, and then I pull it out. So I think it's like the middle.
Right.
And then it should hit 180 like that.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, then I may put it back in for 5 minutes or so.
And then that just makes sure that it's not doughy at all.
Right.
It is the fluffiness and all that.
Yes. So this we could put in the, I have put it in the oven. A lot of times I'm baking other things, so I just put it on top of my stove. But yeah, so we'll put this in the oven.
Okay.
And so that's the bread making process. So do you have any other questions?
I don't think so. It didn't seem as hard as I thought it would be. It's just taking the time of planning out your days of, okay, this is going to take, 3 days? Or
it takes 2.
2 days. Okay.
So like for care group, so I needed it, by 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
So on Tuesday morning, I fed it. And then Tuesday night, I made the dough. And then Wednesday morning, I shaped it, which is what we just did.
Yeah.
And then yesterday around noon is when I baked it. And then it was ready, and I sliced it up, and it's good to go. So it does take 2 days, and you can't rush it. I remember the first or second care group, we were having something that bread would have gone nicely with, and I was like, okay, I've got to make it, but I'm a day behind. Like, can I rush it? And you can't.
Right.
I mean,
it just needs that time.
Yeah. So I think we could probably get the bread out of the oven.
Yes.
Oh, surely it's not hot.
It's not. Oh, yeah. We put it just on warm. Yeah. Okay.
It's fine. I mean, it's a little hot. Can we put it on your counters, or do we need the rack?
Oh, that's fine.
Okay.
It can go on there. It smells so good.
So there's the bread. Now, again, it's going to be different every single time.
Yeah.
This is probably a little dark for some people. Yesterday when I made it, it was like that color. But, you just do what you can. So as soon as you get it out of the oven, well, I guess I'll show you.
Yeah.
So what I do is I stick the meat thermometer all the way in there, and then I kind of pull it out. And then whenever it hits 180, it takes about 15 seconds.
Okay.
Then I know that it's good.
That's good.
I like to tap mine either on the counter or on the floor.
Okay. Just make sure it doesn't stick on the sides.
As soon as it comes out.
And you were telling me that you make this at least once a week for your family. That
Yes.
You guys usually, do you go through like 2 loaves for the week usually?
About a loaf and a half. We actually end up, Derek likes to eat it for breakfast. And like I said, we don't use it for sandwiches or anything. We have toast in the morning or eat it, as a dessert, like with jelly after dinner. So about a loaf and a half is typically what we do. But I only do that if we're having like a big meal, like roast or something.
Right.
But between care group and fellowship meal, I make it a lot. So after it comes out of the oven, I like to melt some butter. And then you just take another, silicone brush and just melt it. And then you just butter it. And my grandma has always told me that it's to keep the crust from getting hard, but I've never had that problem of it being hard. Some sourdough recipes, they cook it in a Dutch oven. And so it's a round loaf and they cook it like, 40 minutes without the lid and then 40 minutes with the lid. So it is very crunchy, which keeps the inside moist. But I don't have that problem with this particular recipe. And I butter the sides, I butter all of it except the bottom because.
Just gives that good extra taste. It's so good with the bread. We should cut. Can we cut one?
Turn it off. Okay, so you just slice it. No one likes the heel. However big you want.
So good. Yes, this has been my favorite sourdough bread that I've had.
Thank you.
It's just wonderful. Well, is there anything else? Any other steps that we need to know?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Just lots of butter.
Well, thank you so much for coming over and showing me how to make the wonderful potato flake sourdough bread.
Well, thank you for having me. It was fun.
Of course.
All right.